Welcome to Cover Zero, Sports and Hot Takes, with your host, Joshua Fisher.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast, the only podcast where God hates us all and sports don't make sense. It's Cover Zero, Sports and Hot Takes. I'm your host, Joshua Fisher, and today we're joined by a special guest. He is a member of an up-and-coming band called Noodles. Everybody welcome DJ.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem, man. So tell me about this band here.
Yeah, for sure. We've been making music for a couple years now. The Noodles is a comedy band with me and my cousin. And yeah, we just make music and try and have some laughs.
Before this podcast, I heard a bit of a couple of the songs. One in particular I heard was Movie Theater People. And I kind of just liked the lo-fi rock I like.
Yeah, that's what we shoot for a lot. I wrote that song at like 3 a.m. one night just because I was thinking about how annoying people in movie theaters are sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I found it very interesting. So I hear you're very into sports.
Yeah, for sure. Quick side note. I don't know if you listened to a song we have called I Am Caveman, but that song actually got played twice on the Pat McAfee show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually really cool. I listen to Pat McAfee all the time.
Yeah, he has like a piece at the end where like there are parts where he just plays music, and he has an email that you can submit music to, and I sent it to him, and then one of my buddies listens to that show like every day, and so he heard it and he was like, dude, Pat McAfee's playing you right now.
That's crazy. I gotta find the clip of that. I'm sure I could find it somewhere. It might take a little bit there, but
Yeah,
does he remember the episode, or was it just, oh, I found it, like he did this?
I think I have the first time he played it on I think I posted that on the Noise Noodle Facebook page, so I could probably go find that and send it to you if you want.
Yeah, for sure. I'll post it on my stuff.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
That's actually really cool, though. I was listening to just this morning. They were talking about all the QB for the NFL, the QB controversies with all the rookies, which we will get into later on.
Yeah, for sure.
First thing I want to note regarding sports right now, the Montreal Canadiens, which is a hockey team, they have an RFA in Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and the Carolina Hurricanes have offered sheet, which is basically, we're going to give you this amount of money. If you don't match this offer sheet, we're going to give you these first round picks or whatever, but we get the player. Now, this is very odd because the Montreal Canadiens have we need 4 lines of centers, but he's our young gun, but he's not very good. So to compare this to like the NFL or people who don't watch hockey, he's like the Daniel Jones of hockey, where he has his moments, but he's not great, and his lows are very low. And the Carolina Hurricanes offered him $6.1 million and in hockey that's a lot. That's what you're giving a lot of the top stars. Well, cat-friendly top stars. And there's just a lot of controversy going around like that. So I just wanted to sort of address that.
That I connect a lot with that Daniel Jones comparison because I'm a Giants fan.
Oh, okay. I'm a Niners fan, but I had the Giants winning the division this year.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today because Lawrence Tynes, who used to be a kicker for the Giants' most recent Super Bowl wins, he tweeted out, true or false, Giants end over 500. I think they're going to end like one game over 500. I think they're going to be like 9-7 or 9-8.
Really?
I keep forgetting they yeah.
They have a weaker schedule though, so that might be to their upside.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't fully trust the team, and everybody is injured right now.
Yeah, fair enough. If there's one guy I would trust, though, it's Joe Judge, because he's shown that he could be, like, the not franchise head coach, but he could be the guy who could help this change of culture around.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The big question is Daniel Jones the guy?
Yeah, well, that's the only thing holding the team back. That's what I said on one of my YouTube episodes was the only wildcat, like the only question mark is at quarterback, because everywhere else you're set, except maybe O-line.
Yeah, O-line's pretty rough, but they just traded for Billy Price today from the Bengals.
And he's not exactly like top notch, but he's a serviceable guy.
Yeah, well, and they're going to use him for depth. He's not going to be slated to be a starter.
Yeah. Well, your best bet is hoping Andrew Thomas could take the next leap forward, because when he was drafted, I actually really liked the pick. Andrew Wirfs was my top right tackle, but he was up there too.
Yeah. With Thomas, I think he has upside because he played hurt all year last year and was decent. So if he can be healthy all year this year, he could be pretty good.
Yeah. You're going to get everything out of Saquon.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he can stay healthy this year. I have a history with Saquon, which starts back in high school because he played in my area and I played high school football. So my sophomore year was his senior year and we played against each other.
Oh, wow.
And then my junior then I went to Penn State, where obviously he went to college. And so he went from a guy that I was playing against to playing for my favorite college team to playing for my favorite NFL team.
Okay. So that's actually crazy though.
Yeah, and he's a really great dude, and he's just an incredible football player. So I really hope he can stay healthy.
Did you expect it? Like when you were playing against him, did you see like, okay, this guy's gonna be that level kind of guy potentially in the NFL?
I mean, we all knew he was good. We had like our entire game plan was to try and stop him, and then we still couldn't. It's really fun because sometimes the Giants will tweet like his highlight tape from high school, and I'll just be watching and I'll be like, oh, I know those guys that are just getting juked out by him. I think when we played him, though, he was still committed to Rutgers, and it was before he decommitted and then committed to Penn State.
Yeah. We have that here where I live, but with hockey instead. Like, I never necessarily played with any... Well, I never played, like, Pee-wee hockey to begin with, but I have a lot of friends, and we've never necessarily seen yet the superstars, but we've seen guys that are like, okay, they can make a big splash, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always fun. He's probably the biggest name I played against, but I've had other guys who, like, I played with a kid who was like number one on the Sports Center top 10 plays one week, who was playing college ball.
Yeah. That's nuts. I'm trying to process that all right now. I'm like, wow. Imagine playing with like Saquon or someone of that caliber, because he has potential to be, if he stays healthy, like the best running back in the league.
Oh, for sure. I'm just, yeah, I think he's going to be able to come back strong. Um, my only concern would be whether he lost any of his explosiveness since it was an ACL thing. And especially like he's all about the moves, and to make quick moves, your legs got to be right. But that dude's legs are so strong. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. As a Giants fan, what do you think of drafting Kadarius Toney?
I don't hate it as much as some Giants fans do. I love the trade back and getting a first rounder for next
Yes.
year, and especially if there's questions about Daniel Jones being the guy or not, you get a first round next year, and with the Bears being the Bears,
Yeah.
that could end up being a pretty high first rounder, and you could get yourself your franchise quarterback if it's not Daniel Jones. And then Kadarius Toney reminds me a lot of another recent Giant, Odell Beckham Jr., who
Hmm.
I loved watching play a lot, and um, their roles are going to be a little different, but it's really going to be important, especially with the state of the O line, to get a guy who can get open down the field as fast as Tony's going to be able to.
Yeah. You gotta imagine that if Galladay's healthy, he's gonna probably be receiver one, right?
Well, yeah, but he's a jump ball kind of
Yeah.
receiver. Like I out of the receivers that were available, he wouldn't have been my first choice. I mean, my first choice would have been the Bears not franchise tagging Allen Robinson, but
Yeah.
um, I like Galladay a lot. I think if he hits his potential, a lot of Giants fans are going to be reminded of Plaxico Burress when he was in his prime. And the Giants haven't had that kind of receiver since Plaxico. So,
Well, even if Galladay is just like becomes like semi, but maybe a little bit above average, you still have Slayton. You have Kadarius Toney coming. You have who else you got? Because I'm pretty sure Kadarius Toney's not even gonna be receiver three. Because I'm sure you had two other guys. I'm forgetting the other one's name. There's Darius.
Sterling Shepard.
Yes, that's the one.
So yeah, Shepard's going to be the starter in the slot, and then Tony will come in on four receiver plays or whenever someone needs a break.
Yeah.
I've also heard stuff though, and with how Tony was used at Florida, there's opportunities where they could either do like two back sets where Tony's in the backfield, or straight up just line him up at running back.
That's interesting too.
Because
That
he,
reminds me of like the Niners with Debo Samuel or Ayuk.
yeah, it is a little bit like that. So that could be interesting. That would require Jason Garrett having any ounce of creativity, though.
Yeah, but you have weapons. It's not like you guys are gonna be like terrible offensively. You have Saquon and you have Daniel Jones, who is a running threat. So that's gonna maybe open up the running game a little bit more for Saquon. And then you have your three solid receivers, and then you have Kadarius Toney, which we don't know what he's gonna be. Evan Engram is okay.
I
Like
mean,
he
he made the Pro Bowl last year, but I think he was the worst Pro Bowl tight end in history. Um, but if he can fix his drop issues, he'll be good.
He
But
didn't. Did he
they,
have that issue in 2019? Because when I was watching him in 2019, it seemed like he was, or maybe he was just open all the time. But he was really good in 2019.
until last year, his problem was always staying on the field, and then last year he was on the field, but he just kept dropping the ball.
Okay.
There had to be three or four interceptions that were the only reason they happened was because the ball got deflected off of Evan Engram's hands.
Yeah.
But that's why they signed Kyle Rudolph, who doesn't have a drop or has like three drops in the last like 8 years or
I
something
forgot they
crazy
signed
like
him
that.
too. Uh,
Um, and then their third tight end is named Caden Smith, and I think he's one of the most underrated and underutilized players on the Giants team. He is solid every time he gets opportunities, and for some reason they never give him opportunities. He just yesterday he caught like a 23-yard touchdown in that preseason game.
against the Patriots?
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the quarterback? Was it Mike Glenn is not on the team anymore, right?
No, Glenn's the backup.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was on the Jags. Or was that last year?
That was last year, I think. It was last year or 2 years ago, something
I'm
like
mixing
that.
up my years apparently.
Yeah, last year the Giants had Colt McCoy as their backup,
Oh
and then they
yes.
let him walk. Is he won their best game of the season against the Seahawks?
Yeah. I remember watching that game too because I'm a Niners fan and I was like, I really want them to lose. I really wanted the Seahawks to lose that game and they just got demolished defensively.
Yeah, and that's the Giants' strength is
Yeah.
their defense, and they were able to have Patrick Graham, their defensive coordinator, come back even though he was getting looks to be head coach. Okay, something interesting. Talking about your 49ers. The other day, I found out D'Amico Ryans is the 49ers defensive coordinator, and I did
Yes.
not know that. I remember watching him play back in the day, and I did not know he was an NFL coach.
Well, it hurt to lose Robert Saleh, but I hope he does very well as the Jets head coach. Yeah, we have D'Amico Ryan now, and he seems to be doing a good job so far. Or maybe it's just the talent we have on defense.
Yeah, I mean, your defense isn't too bad, and obviously the offense with Trey Lance now, assuming he starts.
I don't think he's going to start. I think it's going to be Jimmy G. And there's been news that just came out today that Lance tweaked something with his thumb, so he's going to be out for 7 days, which means Jimmy G's going to be getting the first team reps, which means he's probably going to be the starter week 1.
That's true. I forgot about the bone spurs or whatever in Trey Lance's thumb.
But what I liked about yesterday's preseason game against the Raiders, they were running like a 1940s Rams move where they had rotating quarterbacks like every other play.
Oh, that's so fun. You never want your team to be in that position, but as an outsider, that's always so fun to watch happen.
But Jimmy G and Trey Lance and all the offensive pieces, they were saying this is a good problem to have. They weren't like there was nothing wrong about it. They were saying Trey Lance would be like starting or whatever, or Jimmy would be starting, and then Kyle would be on the sideline saying to Lance or Jimmy the next plays for when he goes in. So it's like they didn't even need to like take the 30 seconds or whatever. They just come in knowing the play and they say to the offense like, this is what we're gonna do.
Mm. Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
And they showed it on the first drive against the Raiders and they scored a touchdown like that. Jimmy dove headfirst into the end zone.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it that way. Yeah.
I don't think that's what they're gonna do for the regular season, but it is an interesting concept. They were talking about Mac Jones and Cam Newton kind of doing the same thing, but I don't think that's gonna happen, and neither do they.
No, it's gonna be Cam's gonna start the season, and then at some point they're gonna pull him. That's just what it's gonna be.
Yeah. I like Cam Newton though. I like him a lot, but Mac Jones is on the sideline, like talking smack to all the other people, the other teams during the reps, and he's just chilling with the offensive line, running laps with them because they got punished.
Yeah, that is interesting, but you know, there's a really old quote and I think that it's been lost to time who first said this quote. But the quote is, "If you have two quarterbacks, you have none."
Yeah. But I feel like sometimes it's a good problem to have, though. Like, if they're both performing well, then it's not a bad problem.
Well, look at like the Chiefs a few years back. This was 2017.
Okay.
They had Alex Smith, who had he was in talks for MVP that year. He didn't get many, or he might have gotten a few votes. He didn't win it, but he got like he was in the conversation. And then that was Patrick Mahomes' rookie year, and they had him on the bench. And then everyone was like, "What are you gonna do?" Because you have this young guy, and then you have a guy who almost just won the MVP, and then they ended up trading Alex Smith, starting Mahomes, and the rest is history.
Yeah. I know that too well as a Niners fan.
Yes, I am sure you do.
But yeah, that's what I think they're gonna do with Jimmy and Trey. Like, Trey Lance has looked very good. It's not what the numbers and the PFF grades say. Like, the problem with him is he's throwing darts, but it's like hard dots where the receivers can't catch it. But you're a receiver and you're supposed to catch it. It's your job. But he's throwing the ball hard.
Yeah, and especially with the way that offense is schemed, you get a lot of guys open down the field, and it'd be really easy to overthrow guys, or like you need some touch on the passes that you're throwing.
That's one of the reasons why I like Jimmy G. Look, he's not exactly like great arm talent, but he's pretty accurate with his throws, and he knows how to put it into the receiver's hands.
Yeah, he's a good short to mid passer. And it seems like Lance is going to be a little more dynamic than that,
Yeah.
however. But how about the Bears sticking with Andy Dalton for week one?
Well, he's going to be the punching bag because there's no way that Justin Fields is going to start week one against the Rams defense because he's going to get torn apart.
Yeah. I mean, as a Giants fan who have the Bears first round pick next year, I love the fact that they're starting Andy Dalton week one and are going to keep starting him. Also the Giants play the Bears in like week 5 or 6, I want to say. So it helps us with draft position and potentially could help us win a game.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned earlier I'm a Penn State guy, and so like watching Justin Fields the past couple years, he's going to be good for the Bears when they actually get him in there. I think right when they decide to start him, he's going to start doing pretty well. And it could end up being a situation like it was with Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor last year, where they start Dalton for a couple games, and then either he has a complete dud of a game or he gets hurt, and then Justin Fields takes QB1, and they never give it back to Dalton.
Yeah. Speaking of Justin Herbert, I have him winning the MVP this year.
That's an interesting.
It's a far fetch, but he broke most rookie records last year. And
yeah,
I could see him like flourishing this year. He has Austin Eckler back. The O-line's way improved. They have Corey Linsley in there, and they have Rashawn Slater, who I thought was the best overall offensive, like all-around offensive lineman, because he could play inside as well, or he could play opposite sides, whereas Penei Sewell is more of a blindside guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he also has Keenan Allen, who I think is like top 2 route runners in the game. Mike Williams is no joke. He has Jared Cook, who I can't say he's like any bad, because Jared Cook's been playing well over the past 2 years.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I forgot that Jared Cook signed with the Chargers. Um, yeah, they could be a pretty good team. Um, I think the interesting thing with Herbert is that he's always going to be linked with Mahomes since they're in the same division, and
yes,
so it's going to be. I think it's tough for him to really stand out for MVP stuff because he's right there with Patrick Mahomes.
I think they're gonna split for when it comes to facing each other, but I think he could pull it off because themselves they've been having like little exchanges online where people ask Mahomes on the golf court, "What do you think of him?" and whatnot, and they've been like not chirping each other, but they've been like respectfully smack talking, being like, well, "I'm ready
Mhm.
for you this season." But if anybody
Yeah.
if anybody could do it, I think it's gonna be Herbert. And then I had Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes as a close second.
Yep. I have a bet down. It's either just $5 or $10, but it would win me a decent amount on Josh Allen to win MVP. I'm a huge Josh Allen guy.
I love Josh Allen. he's he's
Yeah.
everything you want in a quarterback.
Yeah. He's just uh and obviously Aaron Rodgers is great. He just won MVP. But Josh Allen now reminds me a lot of like 2014 Aaron Rodgers, where you just watch him play and he could do anything on any play. Like he could run for 20 yards, he could throw like a 50-yard touchdown pass, and he's just like a magician on the football field. And you just wonder how he does what he does.
Oh yeah, he's I think he's got the best arm in the league.
Oh, by far, and that's what he got drafted for, and
Yeah.
that's why he got drafted as high as he got drafted, is because he can throw a football very far. And then people found out after he got drafted that he can also run the ball pretty dang well.
I know for most of 2019 he was essentially just like a running back because none of his receivers really got open, and then that's where they got Stephon Diggs, and he just took a huge leap forward because he was wildly inaccurate 2018 to 2019 until they got Stephon Diggs.
Yep. And somewhere along the line they got John Brown too, who I think is super underrated. I think he's a really great receiver. I didn't know where he was playing this year, and I just looked it up, and he's on the Raiders, which
Yeah.
actually makes a lot of sense.
Well, Derek Carr. Who does he have? Because Tyrell Williams left, so he's got Henry Ruggs and John Brown, and then Darren
Yeah.
Waller.
Yep. Who? Oh, they got Josh Jacobs at running back.
And Kenyon Drake.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that they signed him too. That's so odd because
I
Josh
found it
Jacobs.
so weird when they got Kenyon Drake because Josh Jacobs was like ranked like top 10 running back in the league.
Yeah, he's top 5 or top 10 at the very least, and Kenyon Drake wasn't a slouch the last couple years either, and that's just odd.
Yeah. I don't know. If I were him, I'd want to get out of the. I don't have hope for the Cardinals this year because I don't know. I have a very weird like love-hate relationship with them. But not even speaking about bias right now, I don't think they're making the playoffs this year.
They were well last year. They were like just outside the playoffs. I think they were a win or two away from being
Yeah,
in the
they were
playoffs.
they were one win away because the Bears beat them out for it. But to be fair, they blew like 5 out of 7 games, like the last 7 games of the season.
Yeah. Well, they also had one of their wins was the crazy Hail Mary to DeAndre
Oh
Hopkins
yeah.
against the Bills.
But You know what's funny too? Now we're seeing that like 3 times this preseason. It happened 3 times. One with James Morgan and the Jets, and another one happened with the Giants, I think. Was it the Giants?
Yeah, Mike Lennon threw a touchdown with like 20 seconds left, and then they didn't get the 2 point to tie it up.
Oh,
But yeah, I actually like the Cardinals a lot, and I think they could do pretty well. It is going to be that is still a pretty tough division, and the 49ers are definitely the front runner.
I think the
But
Rams are.
oh, that's true. I forgot they got Stafford.
Like with
Um,
even if oh no with Goff I don't think they would. I think they'd be second, but Stafford over Goff is a huge upgrade. Like I've been a
yeah,
huge Matthew Stafford fan for years, and I really wanted him to come to the Niners in the offseason and then trade Jimmy or something. But we ended up getting Trey Lance. But I'm fine with that. But when I first heard the news that he went to the Rams, I was like, damn. I got a
yeah.
little heartbroken.
He's for sure one of the more underrated players of the last decade, and if he can put some stuff together in these next however many years he plays, he could be a borderline Hall of Fame guy by the end of it.
Oof.
He definitely needs a ring though, if that's a conversation. But if you look at his stats, it's you would be surprised at how good he's been.
I think he leads QBs in fourth quarter comebacks. Or is that Russell Wilson? I think he's up there, though.
Yeah, he might be up there. Um, but yeah, he's always just super solid, and he actually has a team around him now.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Well,
and
they had the number 3 ranked offensive line in the game. Then they have Robert Woods and Cooper Cup, and then you have
yeah,
Van Jefferson. Too bad Cam
they
Akers isn't there no more. Well, torn ACL or MC, something like that. But he's out for the season.
they just traded for Sony Michelle though.
I did see that. But what is Sony
Um,
Michelle?
yeah, I mean, Sonny Michelle, he's going to be in a better running scheme now, and I mean, looking at some of the guys that the Rams have had run pretty decent in Sean McVay's offense, I think they'll be able to use Sonny Michelle pretty well.
Yeah. I thought the Darrell Henderson or maybe bringing back Todd Gurley. Imagine that. But Sony Mich I still don't know what he is, and maybe he'll find himself with the Rams. But even if they don't, even if he doesn't flourish with them, they still have like a Super Bowl winning team. That defense is super scary. Uh, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, the two best defensive players in the league, and then
Yeah,
the offense is still like I think it'll be top 10 come this season.
yeah, they'll definitely. I mean, they're the team that a lot of analysts and a lot of the public are putting as their Super Bowl winners. But I don't know. We've always there's always those teams that look like they're going to put it together and then still end up underperforming.
Yeah. Who was the team last year? I'm trying to think of that we all thought were gonna make it to the Super Bowl, and then they ended up plummeting. I think it was the Broncos.
Oh, maybe the Broncos. Yeah, because I mean, they nobody expected their quarterback situation to be as bad as it was, and it. People didn't expect it to be good, but they finally got a receiver, couple receivers actually, and their running game was strong. It looked like their defense was supposed to get back, but then Von Miller got hurt.
I still really like Drew Lock. Like he did really well in 2019, and then last year he was just hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously he didn't show enough in camp to win the spot, and so um, I don't know. There's some stuff that even in 2019 it looked like he needed to fix, and it just doesn't seem like he fixed some of it.
Yeah. Uh,
I
what
really like Teddy Bridgewater, though. I
I
will
was about to
say
say.
I've always liked him a lot. He's not like a game breaker.
No.
He's similar to Jimmy G in a lot of ways. Like really solid 5 to 10 yard passer. Not going to throw much down the field, but he's also not going to make game breaking mistakes.
Well, that's what I was about to say. He's not gonna steal the show, but he's gonna help you win games, and that's just his job. He doesn't really do anything besides do his job and just try to win the game, which is what Jimmy G and guys like Andy Dalton are and whatnot.
Yeah. But then, like, it also makes it confusing that they trade a guy like Philip Lindsay in the offseason because, like, if they think they have a team, he should have been a centerpiece.
Did they trade him,
And
or
I
was
think
he signed by? Because I know he's on the Texans. Did he get signed there, or did they trade him there?
they traded him.
Well,
I think they had him for another year or two, and he got traded.
Well, it's not like they're missing out on the run game now because Melvin Gordon is really good. And now they got Javonte Williams, who I thought was a top 2 back in the draft.
Yeah, I never thought they really needed to trade for Melvin Gordon in the first place. I always really liked Philip Lindsay. Um, oh, interesting. Okay, I looked it up. Apparently, they didn't trade him. They had he was a restricted free agent, and he didn't want to be there, so they decided to not pick up his tender.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
But still, I thought he deserved to be their full-time starter before they got Melvin Gordon.
And he signed with the Texans. He willingly signed with the Texans.
Yeah, I don't quite get that one.
Well, they have like 5 starting running backs now. They have like they have Mark Ingram, Philip Lindsay. You have
David Johnson.
Yes. People are still drafting him to be the starter in fantasy.
Yeah. Oh, and they have Rex Burkhead.
He's more of a fullback though, really.
I mean, he's a big pass catcher.
He's a big dude. That's what he is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's not a bad idea for them to just get a ton of running backs because they're never going to throw the ball because they don't have a quarterback.
It's a Davis Mills season. Apparently.
That's a team that they're going to be the exact dumpster fire that everyone thinks they are going to be.
It was such a shame too because they were like not crazy good, but they were like playoff good. They made the playoffs like for 2 years in a row, I think. I know when they did in 2019, but they just collapsed after the game against the Chiefs, and I guess Bill Belichick just went on. No, Bill Belichick? No. Bill O'Brien. What am I thinking? I think I'm mixing between the Bills. Bill O'Brien just went on a trading spree after that, apparently.
Yeah, they never should have given him an office control.
Yeah. I don't know. Because they were playoff contenders, and then after one off season, everything just went crashing down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to tell really what happened there, but I they're going to be terrible this year, but potentially that could be really fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, I think they're gonna get the number one pick,
Yeah, the
and
question
they'll
is,
actually have their pick this year, unless they trade it.
yeah, um, I've been seeing some stuff that teams are still trying to trade for Deshaun Watson, and
Yeah, I seen the Dolphins.
yeah, apparently the Dolphins though went to the league office and were like, "Hey, uh, we want to trade for him, but can you make it so that if we trade for him and he gets convicted, we get our picks back?"
Hmm. Well, that's the
Which is,
gamble. I don't think that should be allowed. I think that's the gamble of it.
yeah, and I don't think any team in their right mind should be willing to do that.
I th- I think it's just safe for every team to wait and see what happens with him, and then make, because that's what most that's what the Niners were waiting for. They thought it would be cleared up before like the draft, because they
Mhm.
were one of the front runners to get him too. And he said, "I want to go to the Niners or the Broncos." And Shanahan's were like, "That's our guy." But then it wasn't cleared up before the draft, so he's like, "You know what? We like this guy Trey Lance, and the story lives on."
Yeah, it the Texans are going to kick themselves because he was very vocal about wanting to be traded way before any of this stuff came out, and they were like, "Hey, we're not going to trade you," and then it ended up biting them because now they're not going to be able to get Jack for him, and they could have gotten a couple first round picks at the very least if they had
Well,
just tried to trade him earlier in the year.
he is like a top five quarterback in the league. They would have gotten like two or three first round picks.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Um, it just had to be. I was watching videos of him at training camp, and that just, I can't imagine how awkward that locker room was. Like, did I have to wonder if like anybody on that team even like talked to him because it's like the combination of like he wants to get traded and he has all these allegations and it's just like how do you just chop it up with a guy like that in the locker room?
it, you got to imagine they're like, not, it's got to be awkward, but it's got to be more than that. It's got to be like, "I like you, dude, but like, you got to get your stuff sorted out."
Yeah, it's it's just such a terrible situation and the fact that like I heard what the Texans are probably going to do is they're going to keep him on the 53-man roster, but they're just not going to dress him on game days.
Mm. So he's eligible to play right now if he wanted to, or does he have to get his stuff
Yeah,
sorted out?
I think he's technically allowed to play, but I think they're just not going to let him. And especially because, I mean, there might be something, he might be on the, I don't know, because the NFL is investigating still. So he might not be able to play while he's being investigated, actually.
Do you think it's real, or do you think it's just a cash grab thing that he needs to settle?
Uh, I think based on the fact, based on how his attorney has been handling it, I think he's probably guilty.
Okay.
Because a little while ago there was a thing where in the like opening statements his attorney was like, yeah, if we're going to proceed, we need all of the people accusing him to state their name and be public about this in the courtroom. And then like 19 of the 20 people who are accusing him were willing to do that. And so I think that that's a pretty his attorney was just really hoping that they wouldn't do that, and that would be how they base their case. And I think he's going to end up losing that battle.
It's very weird to me because with with a lot of football guys, when things like that get brought up, you could kind of tell if they're guilty or not just by who they are and what their personality is. Like if those happen against AB, we know for sure he did it. But Deshaun Watson, he not to say he's like very vanilla, but he's not that guy to be like vocal about it. He's very shy in the way where he doesn't really voice anything online, and he's always just let's go to work, let's get this done, and speak to the media, and that's it. He doesn't really like go out on his Instagram or anything off of the field, and just does whatever.
Yeah, yeah, it's really just odd because before any of this, people would have said that he was like people would have thought he was a pretty good dude, and so it's really interesting that um like all of this, if it's true, was just happening in the background of all of that, and that like he could just be this just terrible person behind the scenes and nobody would have known it.
Yeah. And that's the thing with having money and having non-definitive, what's it called, evidence, that he could just be like, here, have a couple $1,000 and we'll all shut up about it.
Yeah,
Because that's happened a lot in sports where a lot of like sexual allegations have happened, and then they just, okay, here's some money, now let me carry on with my career, and then the justice isn't served.
yeah, it's even like, yeah, there's some crazy ones. Like, have you ever heard about Carl Malone and his kid?
No.
Okay, so Carl Malone back in the day ended up having a kid with, I think she was like 13 at the time, and
Jeez.
then just completely abandoned his kid and the mom. And then like years later, the kid grows up and ended up being an offensive lineman for the Eagles.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and then um, like never knew his dad. Like his mom had told him like this is your dad, like this is what happened. And then finally like got paternity test, found out Carl Malone was really his dad, and then like they reunited. But it's just like it's really weird because like every time people talk about Carl Malone now, that's like what hits my brain is like he had a kid with like a 13-year-old, and people like don't like a lot of people don't know that, and the people who do know it just kind of don't talk about it.
They just brush it off.
Yeah, which is like odd to me.
It is very odd. The thing, what I found very weird was like for people who their dads abandon them, or they have like if you're adopted and then you find out who your parents are, or as for that kid, he finds out who his dad is. Was like the reunion like, oh hey, what's up, and then they get friendly.
Yeah, I don't know that.
I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd be like, you left me. Or if I were adopted, I'd be like, it's not that you couldn't, like, it's not that, I don't know if you wanted to take care of me or not, but you didn't. This is my dad. This is my mom. This is who I grew up with. You may be like the father, my, what's the word?
Biological.
Biological father and mother, but you didn't raise me. Like, it'd be very weird to me to go up to, like, if I were adopted, my biological mother, and be like, yo, what's up?
Hmm. Yeah. I'm sure it's different from case to case too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, different people have to react to that stuff in different ways. So I looked up the Carl Malone stuff to fact check myself. So Malone has like 7 kids with like 5 different women.
Okay.
And I think he's lost a couple. I think this says he's lost a couple paternity suits. And one of them was Malone was a 20-year-old college sophomore when Bell, at age 13, gave birth to their son.
Jesus.
And yeah, it's just so whenever Carl Malone comes up, I just feel really weird.
Yeah, no, now that I know that, it'd be very odd to me. I would it's weird because I'd probably brush it off too and be like, I don't want to talk about this guy. What happened. It's like, and they're like, why? I'm like, I don't want to get into it. You could look it up.
Yeah, and I think with him it was like it came up later in his career was when the paternity lawsuit happened, and so like people didn't really like he was pretty established at that point, and like the media wasn't as big back then about publicizing stuff like that, and so I don't think people really like knew about it when he
Oh
was
yeah,
actually
you
playing.
could think of back, not even like super far back, but what happened with Big Ben and the allegations that happened with him.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I forgot that happened with Big Ben, which again,
Cause
like I think people just forget about that stuff if
yeah,
it's old enough, which
and
is
he's an
crazy.
active quarterback.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. I forgot about that. Um, did you ever see the stuff about this is like a little bit this is definitely different, but did you see the stuff with RG3 where a couple years back he cheated on his wife and then divorced his wife to marry his mistress?
Okay,
Um, and then yeah, they got married and are married now.
that's the story. I didn't hear about that, but that's it.
Yeah, that happened a couple years back. I just thought it was just a really weird thing that happened at one point.
They just divorced his wife, cheated on his wife, then divorced her to marry the person he had an affair with.
Yep.
Okay. Well, some dudes are just bad dude. Like, not to say he's like a bad dude, but sometimes people just ain't that guy. That like I always thought RG3 was just like a mentor, like a good guy who's just gonna help another good guy out.
Yeah, and I mean it's very possible that's still the case, and like everybody makes mistakes, and he could have just made a very public, or I guess not very public, but a mistake that is bigger because he's a public figure.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Uh.
it's weird. It's weird to think about like how many of these athletes are put up on pedestals and like
Oh, that's the one thing I hate like about being an athlete is not the being put up on a pedestal part because like there's children watching you and it's if you're an athlete it's kind of your job to be like not role modelish but at least set a good example. But I hate if I were an athlete I'd hate being like everything I say and do is to the public eye.
yeah, for sure. Well, it's like I know you're not a huge baseball guy, but there was a thing that happened in baseball recently where Javier Baez, who was a player on the New York Mets,
Okay.
the so the Mets are pretty bad and they're pretty consistently bad, and New York is very rabid as a fan base. So the team was playing bad, and every time the team would a player on the team would do something not so great, they would get booed like really loudly. And so what the Mets players started doing is every time they did something good, they started giving a thumbs down to the fans. And when Javier Baez was asked about it in a press conference, he was like, yeah, if they're going to boo us, we're going to boo them when we do good things.
I don't know if I like that. That's like the New York Knicks, what their fans like raising up signs and saying fire James Dolan, and he bans them from the stadium, like, and then James Dolan going out and saying we don't want our fans to do that. Like, it's New York.
Yeah,
it's not just that too, but any fan base, if it's gonna be public that you're doing things or that you're not good, then fans are gonna have an opinion. There's just nothing you can do about that.
Well, yeah, basketball. So basketball, I'm a Sixers guy, and I live in PA, so I've gone to a bunch of Sixers games, and people go insane for the weirdest things in those kinds of fan bases.
That's Philadelphia for you.
Yeah, and
I'm sure they're like that at Eagles games.
Yeah, I've never been to an Eagles game because I'm pretty sure as a Giants fan I would get murdered. But yeah, they definitely are. Just like knowing a lot of Eagles fans and having talked to a lot of Eagles fans, like they're like a lot of them aren't like it with anything except for Eagles football.
Yeah. They're just football guys.
Yeah, and they just go crazy over the Eagles, and I mean a lot of Philly teams are pretty bad right now. So
yeah, well, the Sixers aren't necessarily bad. They're like the Toronto Maple Leafs, where they lose in the first round or the second round in utter disappointment, where they say every year, this is it, this is our improvement, and then it just crumbles down later on.
Yeah, let me rant about the Sixers for a second. So Ben Simmons wants to get traded, which is a move that should be made, and he is trying to help you because he wants to be traded. He's not responding to Joel Embiid's text messages or phone calls. He is very unhappy, and he's just trying to work on his game. And I don't know why the organization is so married to Ben Simmons. They just need to trade him, and he wants to get traded now.
Oh, he's one jump shot away from being the next Derrick Rose, in my opinion.
It's just the past. Well, what he won Rookie of the Year in 2016, I think. And ever since 2016, he has been trying to develop his jump shot. So it has been 5 years, and he has not developed a jump shot yet.
I feel like nobody would want him traded as bad if he didn't have such a big contract, but he's among like top 5, top 6 defenders in the league.
Yeah, but he also doesn't like he's not even doing like in that playoff series where we lost to the Hawks. He wasn't even doing what he's good at. He attempted like 3 shots total because he got all up in his head and he couldn't get his head straight, and then he just wasn't doing anything, and it really hurt the team at the end there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about professional sports. You can't let anything get to your head, because as soon as that happens, then you start to crumble, like most athletes and most teams.
Especially not in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is notorious for breaking talented players with a lot of potential. Like I've been comparing Ben Simmons and his situation a little bit to Markelle Fultz in Philly a couple years back, where so Markelle Fultz, they drafted him number 1 overall. over, I think it was like, it might have been Jason Tatum. I don't remember. It was somebody the Celtics took that is just an immensely better player. And they took Markel Fultz. He hurt his shoulder in the first couple games he played with the Sixers, missed the season. Next season, he couldn't shoot, and people thought it was because of his shoulder, but actually, later that year, the Sixers traded him to the Orlando, or yeah, they traded him to Orlando, and
Hmm.
then he's been a lot better in Orlando since then.
So you just need a like
Yeah,
new place, new face kind of vibe where he needed a new situation to get his groove again.
yeah, exactly. And I think if the Sixers traded Ben Simmons, it would be good for both sides because I think that that would fix Simmons' mental problems, and so he would play better. And because he is all up in his head being in Philly, he would just be taking up space for them, and they should trade him and try and I yeah, I don't know what the trade would look like. I have my hopes set pretty high because I know there's been at least some discussion where Damian Lillard wants to get traded from the Trailblazers and he has the
Yeah,
Sixers on his list of teams. And I think the Sixers could potentially put something together. And that,
you'd
I think
you'd
that
have
would
to
be,
give you'd have to give a couple first round picks there if you wanted Damian Lillard. Like Ben Simmons is good, but it's Damian Lillard we're talking about.
yeah. And I think putting together Ben Simmons, maybe a couple other guys and some draft picks would be fine because Damian Lillard is that good and Damian Lillard has everything that the Sixers are missing. Like back, I think it was 2017 when the Sixers traded for Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler. And
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Butler leaving is the worst thing that could have happened after that season because Jimmy Butler had everything that this team doesn't have right now. Because like if they had Jimmy Butler this year, when Simmons started struggling, they could have thrown Jimmy in at point guard and just let Simmons calm down. And Jimmy Butler is also just about the clutchest player in basketball. And the Sixers have no clutch gene whatsoever, evidenced by the fact that they blew historic amounts of leads against the Hawks in the playoffs.
Yeah. Uh, what was I gonna say? Well, I find what the Sixers need is just they need that point guard who could shoot from the perimeter. They need a guy. They need a guy who could open up space for Harris and Embiid.
Yeah, they also need Harris to get consistent, but I definitely agree. um, and they got a little bit of that with Tyrese Maxey off the bench this year, who they drafted in the previous draft, but they don't have a guy who can consistently do that at point guard. And in the NBA nowadays, you need to do that with your point guard.
Well, nowadays in the NBA, we're already predicting who's going to be in the final.
Yeah, that's true.
The Lakers and the Nets,
Yep.
who I made a list like a few weeks ago, like saying the best NBA players in the league. I had Kevin Durant as one,
I think that's pretty
and
fair.
yeah, uh, but Kyrie Irving is coming back healthy. He's coming back healthy. James Harden's coming back healthy. They still have Blake Griffin and I forget his name, but they have another like pretty good point guard there just on the bench.
Hmm.
I think if if everyone's healthy on that team, no one's beating them. Like they'll lose in the regular season sometimes, but nobody's beating them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They
If
were mopping the floor with the Bucks.
that's true, but then they did end up dropping it. If they can stay consistent and if they can stay healthy, I mean Kyrie Irving has had different issues with his health even before last year.
Yeah,
But if they can stay healthy, um, I guess the other thing is all those guys are starting to get pretty old, except for Kyrie, who still has quite a few years left. But they have a window, and if they don't win a championship in the next like 3 to 4 years, they're gonna miss that window.
yeah. Well, speaking of getting older, the Lakers looking like a retirement home right now. They have
Yeah.
they have like six. There's the 14 oldest players in the league. They have 6 or 7 of them on the team.
Yeah. Well, and it just continues with them getting Rajon Rondo earlier today.
Yeah.
And they at the beginning of the offseason they re-signed Dwight Howard too.
Yeah. And they just got Russell Westbrook. Now the only problem with that team, who's gonna shoot the ball?
I literally everybody because I completely forgot about this. They signed Carmelo Anthony too.
Yeah.
And
But
they're just
out of their big three, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook, who's gonna be that guy to shoot from the perimeter?
well, I mean with those three you almost don't like they're going to be breaking the what everybody in the NBA is doing right now. And to some degree, that's really smart with the guys they have because they have three guys that pretty much nobody can stop them in the paint. And then
Yeah.
I guess that's why they signed Carmelo because Carmelo last year was great from three.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's because on the Nets you have KD could score from anywhere, James Harden could score from almost anywhere, and Kyrie could do the same thing. The problem is they don't really play defense.
yeah, I I think it's going to end up just whenever they're taking threes, it's going to be Carmelo Anthony. Because also, if you look at even their bench, they don't have a lot of three shooters, especially after re-signing a guy like Dwight Howard.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the most fun storyline with all of that isn't how good they have the potential to be, but it's going to be like I think it's going to be very early on when LeBron and Russell Westbrook end up just arguing with each other. And I think those two are just about the worst locker room fit you can have together. Uh, and so I'm excited to see them just argue and fight on the court at some point during the season.
It's weird because they get along. Like when they're on the opposite teams, it looks like they've been getting along. They've been getting along like on social media and whatnot.
Yeah, but LeBron gets along with a lot of guys when they're not playing with him that he gets really mad at when they are playing with him.
Mm-hmm. Another thing is they got to stay healthy. I know Westbrook doesn't really have a problem with that, but AD and LeBron all last season they've been kind of insufferable with the injuries.
Yeah, and that's when they won the title, it was because both of them were healthy pretty much the whole season.
Well, they got
And
their rest there from the pandemic.
yep, yep. Um, but I don't know. They're going to be an interesting team to watch no matter what. It just like looking at their roster, it looks like it could be Team USA and they could win an Olympic gold.
It really does. Speaking of Olympics, I thought Slovenia was going to take the whole thing until Luka got semi-injured there.
Yeah, it was. I didn't watch a ton of the games, but what I did watch was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I did not expect, like, USA wins it every year, but this year I didn't expect them to win it just because, like, all that I've been seeing when it comes to, like, the exhibition matches. But when it came to the actual, like, tournament, they didn't look like the same team.
Yeah, they had a few guys who just decided to not play who had gotten selected. And so they were already running short. And uh, a lot of teams were building with more NBA guys and just had a more solid core of guys from their country. Um, like I was interested. The Australian team got the bronze, and they had Markel Fultz, who is
Yeah.
a Sixers guy and is a really great defender. And I didn't know he was Australian, but apparently he is. Um, and then I, yeah, I know they had a solid team outside of that too, and that was without Ben Simmons playing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, okay. Apparently, Kyrie Irving was born in Australia. I did not know that.
What?
He was born in Melbourne.
So, is he an Australian citizen? Just because he's born there doesn't necessarily mean he's from there.
Well,
Like,
no,
is
but
he an Australian citizen?
yeah, I know at least for America, if you're born in another country and then your parents have citizenship in America and move you back to America, you have dual citizenship.
Okay.
That's
So
interesting.
he could technically play for Australia, right? If he wanted to.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, and
Hold on.
the Australian team beat Slovenia in the bronze medal match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun watching Luca.
Luka was hurt though, unfortunately. He got hurt in that second game, and then the third game coming in, he just couldn't shoot.
Yeah, but he's a fun guy to watch play
Oh, he's
basketball.
my favorite player. He's my favorite player in the league. Just personality and everything.
Yeah, and it's awesome that like he's just stepping right in as the franchise player there.
Oh, he's by far. If KD wasn't there, he'd be the best offensive player in the league.
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely
He's
yeah.
just not there. He's just defensively he's okay, but he's not going to be the guy to make the stops. He's going to be there to be like a placeholder.
Jeez.
Off. Yeah.
So I just looked up Luka Doncic. He was born 3 days before I was born, and he's like the yeah. That's just really crazy.
Mhm.
He's so young. Like he's
Yeah,
gonna be
he's like 22.
like once you see guys like LeBron and KD starting to retire, he is like definitely going to be the face of the league because like he hasn't even hit his peak yet, and he's as good as he is.
Oh yeah, he could improve his defense, and he'll be the best player in the league, hands down.
Jeez, that's crazy.
I think him, Trey Young, and LaMelo Ball will be like the main faces of the league.
Yeah, they're definitely up there. and they're definitely the front runners right now.
Yeah.
Oh, and can't forget about Zion.
Oh yeah. He's been kind of quiet this year though, I find.
Yeah, he was good in spots. I think it's mostly because the team around him sucks,
That's fair enough.
which I've read some stuff that he might potentially want out if they don't put a better team around him.
I heard that he wants to play for the Knicks.
Oh, that would be very interesting.
And what the Knicks are missing right now is Julius Randle's a good player, but in the playoffs you could see he had nobody around him, so he was getting triple teamed and he couldn't produce. So if you have that 1, 2, or even 3 guy punch, then he's gonna be great because he's not a number one guy. He's not gonna be your number one scorer, your number one player. He's gonna be a number 2 or 3 guy.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
what the Knicks are missing is a main player, and then he's gonna be the complementary guy, like the Scottie Pippen to the Michael Jordan, but obviously not
Yeah.
as good.
Yeah. I mean, so Zion played he played in 61 games this year. He averaged 29.3 points per game, 4 assists per game, 7.8 rebounds per game.
Jesus.
Um, yeah. So he was still very good this year, and that's actually all of those, actually except for rebounds, are better than the previous year. He
Hmm.
also has so he had a point 0.7 blocks per game, 1 steal per game, but everything except rebounds is up from his first season, and even rebounds it's only down by point 0.3.
Mm.
So he still had a very solid season, and just nobody cared because he was playing on the Pelicans.
Yeah. I guess
Which
that's why they're kind of quiet too, because in New Orleans you don't really, well, the Pelicans at least, you don't really get much like traction. You don't get much advertising or nothing there.
Yeah, which is really disappointing to me that Anthony Davis got traded when he did, because watching him and Zion play together would have been really fun.
Yeah. It's a lot different when you compare it to like New York or LA, places like those where everything you do or every move they make, like all eyes are on them all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's like going back to the NFL for a second, it's like Odell getting traded from New York to Cleveland.
Yeah, to be fair, in 2019 he didn't really produce a lot because he had like a lot of like what's it called?
Well, yeah, I think in 2019 he played 12 games, and he was playing the whole time with a core injury.
He also had a lot of like communication issues with Baker Mayfield that year.
That's true as well.
But now I feel like he's gonna, because just saw his team go to the playoffs, and he saw how good Baker Mayfield could be with that offensive line, who was number one in run and number one in pass, and he has weapons around him, and he has the best running back tandem in the league. Imagine with Odell coming back now.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be I love Odell. Even like I was really disappointed when the Giants decided to trade him, and I've continued being a fan of him even after he's gotten traded. So I really do hope he has a bounce back year.
Well, that's how I am with like Frank Gore and DeForest Buckner.
Mm. Dude, I love Frank Gore. It's so fun that he's just a dinosaur and is still playing football.
Oh, his his son is currently in college football right now,
Yep.
and he's eligible to play in the NFL in like a year or two. So we could see Frank Gore and his son playing on the same team.
Yeah. I I really want that to happen. I don't think it will because Frank Gore is still a free agent right now. But
Apparently, he wants to go with the Niners as like the last dance kind of thing, where he's like, I'm gonna come back to my old team where I became Frank Gore,
yeah,
and let's make some noise.
I
Kind of like what Marshawn Lynch did 2019.
yeah, I think if there's any team that Frank Gore at 38, 39 years old could thrive on, it's the 49ers. Because the run scheming that Shanahan can do is just incredible. And
Oh, I love it so much because their formations. I don't like. I'm a guy who likes memorizing formations and everything. You defenses and even I don't even know what run they're gonna be playing, like 90% of the time, just because they run so many like play actions and like trick plays. Not really trick plays, but just weird plays you'd never see. It's very creative.
yeah, and yeah, for me as a guy who played offensive line, just watching how they scheme all the different pulls and all the different blocking schemes is really fun. And seeing how they just get their running backs wide open holes and get them in space. It's really fun. And so I feel like if there is any team that Frank Gore could still be decent on, it's probably the 49ers.
Our running back room is very open and big too, because we got Raheem Mostert, who's a baller. We have Trey Sermon, who who did he play against where he had like 300 yards in college?
I don't remember, but I forgot that the 49ers drafted Trey Sermon. That's crazy.
Yeah, they got Trey Sermon. They have Jeff Wilson Jr., who's injured, but he's like another Raheem Mostert but bigger.
Mm-hmm.
They have Jermichael Hasty, who in the preseason was just running 9.1 yards per carry. And then you have Wayne Gallman.
Yep, who filled in very well for Saquon when he was hurt.
He's an all around back though. Like he's a big dude. He's elusive and he could catch.
Yeah, he was the running back at Clemson before Etienne.
Yeah.
And so he won a national title in college and was pretty solid in college. I think the Giants took him in like the 4th round, and then he was very solid for them all around. I think he had a couple points over four yards a carry last year. Yeah, he runs very hard. He isn't afraid to make contact with people.
Yeah. Who's the backup for the Giants right now?
They signed Devontae Booker. And who was the other guy? There was another. So they have a rookie that they drafted in the 5th round named Gary Brightwell, who looked pretty good in the preseason. And then they have Corey Clement also on their roster.
Okay.
And then their fullback is Eli Penny, who is Rashad Penny's brother.
Rashad Penny, he's on the Seahawks, right?
Yeah, he was their 1st round pick a couple years back.
Really?
Yeah, and he has been very terrible. And also Chris Carson is very good.
Yeah, Seahawks never really hit their mark on draft picks, really.
No, except for getting Russell Wilson in like the 3rd round.
Oh, and DK Metcalf.
Oh, DK too. Yeah.
They have their gems, but they also, well, their 1st round picks are never really pan out.
Yeah.
Because I think Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, he was in 2012. Which is a very interesting draft to look back on.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had 1 and 2 was Andrew Luck and RG3, and then like they both aren't playing football anymore, and then Russell Wilson's just still kicking it.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know how big you are on professional wrestling, but like how much do you watch it? Do you know about it?
Um, I haven't been watching a ton recently. I was very big into it back in the day, and my older sister watches it a lot. So anytime anything big happens, she always lets me know about it.
Well, do you know about AEW?
Yes, I do.
Well, they just brought in a huge talent pool with Daniel Bryan, who's a great wrestler, one of the best, and then they brought in CM Punk, who I thought would never wrestle again.
Yes, I stopped watching shortly after he left WWE, and yeah, I also never thought he would see a wrestling ring again, especially not in a capacity where he would actually be having matches.
Yeah, he's gonna be fighting next Sunday against Darby Allin, who
Hmm.
I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a pretty damn good wrestler too. So they're gonna have a match, like a good one.
Yeah, that's Punk was always one of my favorite guys, and he knows his stuff really well, and he's just all around solid. I listened to a little bit of the promo he cut when he first came into AEW, and vocally and on the mic, he's definitely still got it. And so
Yeah,
it'll definitely be interesting to see if he's still got it in the ring too.
because I've always been a big wrestling guy, but the last 3, 4, 5 years of watching like WWE has been god awful. And then AEW came in, and it's like, okay, it's just gonna be another indie, but it wasn't another indie. It's winning ratings of all wrestling right now, and it's the next big thing. This is like the WWF and WCW all over again.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean the hope would be that doing stuff like that and getting the bigger names, they're going to be able to start putting pressure on, and WWE is going to start being able to improve their product. Because from what I've been reading, and I still follow a lot of people, a lot of wrestling analysts on Twitter, a lot of people really don't like their product right now.
Oh, it got to the point where Ric Flair went into the back room with uh, Hunter and Vince, and he's like, "Listen, I don't like what you're doing with the company. I'm gonna go somewhere else, and this isn't the wrestling I've known to love." And then he bought out his own contract with WWE as like he was like background personnel, and he did like little managing roles. So he bought out his own contract just so he didn't have to deal with it anymore because it's just been a dumpster fire. Even with the pressure on them, they've just seemed to, and they're releasing all their wrestlers too, all their good ones. So
Yeah,
I have no clue what they're doing.
Vince is so old, and it's very apparent that he just doesn't know what he's doing anymore.
Mm-hmm. Uh, so we've been recording for an hour and a half now. So I think we've pretty much covered all really there is to cover for now.
Mhm.
Uh, is there any last note you want to add, or plug you want to make for your band, or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, We're a comedy band. If you check out our YouTube channel, it's just called Noodles. We have our music up there. We have sketches up there and some just weird other comedy videos. We are also on Spotify and every other streaming service. So please check us out. We really appreciate it. We're trying to hit 100 subscribers before the end of the year, and we're getting there on YouTube. So we'd really appreciate if people would check us out.
I will be sure to put description of most or almost all of your social medias, and be sure to go check them out on all of the platforms just listed. And so yeah, I will be sure to make sure everything's plugged, and it was great having you.
Yep. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So that is it for now. I will see you all on the next episode. This was Cover Zero Sports and Hot Takes.